All right, good afternoon, everyone.
So I understand.
Whoa.
Nice seeing you.
We had cars out here last time I was talking. Again, welcome to the Corvette Corral. On behalf of Chevrolet, we're glad you're here. Hope you're having a good time. Just a brief reminder that at 4 o'clock, we do have the drivers coming over who are going to do an autograph session here and also wander through the lot and pick out a car that they like. So you're not here to listen to me talk because I don't know a whole lot. So what I'm going to do is turn it over now to Harlan Charles, Brands Manager for Corvette, and Tadge Juechter, the vehicle line engineer. Tadge?
Thank you. You guys are all here for the Corvette parking seminar, right? You just watched us try to get the car in at the last second. That turned out not to be a good idea. We should have done it out the back. Actually, we had this car out this morning because we had ABC, Sports ESPN, doing some filming around the car. On Sunday, they may do a short 30-second commercial while the race is running, talking a little bit about the technology transfer between the race car and the street car. So we're really happy to have this one here. This is one of the first production Carbon Z06s, and it's of all the cars we produce, the biggest beneficiary of the tech transfer between the race program and the street program. We talked about it a lot last year. We had some production delays, but we are producing the car now in both this orange color as well as the Sonic Blue. And looks like it's creating quite a strong response even a year after its initial introduction last year. So before we get into some of the stuff we want to talk about, we got a couple of special guests here I wanted to introduce you to. You see Harlan and I here just about every year, but we're privileged this year to have a couple of Corvette executive emeritus, folks who have contributed to the Corvette over its long history. And the first one I'd like to bring up is Joe Spielman. Joe's in the back. Come on up, Joe. I'd like him to say a couple of words. If you've read All Corvettes or read, or really any book about Corvette, you know that Joe Spielman had a huge hand in keeping the Corvette going, overcoming many obstacles within GM. Joe was a manufacturing executive, but he drove out of his lane, so to speak, to intervene on our behalf in many cases, bringing his passion for the brand and helped make all the other critical decision makers inside GM, helped make them understand the importance of the car, and really drove the point home when some people just weren't getting it. So really happy to have him here. Want to say a few words, Joe?
Thanks, Tadge. First of all, it's a great pleasure for me to be here in Sebring with so many of my friends, but even more so with the most awesome car on the face of the planet. I've owned 37 Corvettes in my life. I'm down to 8, so I'm out shopping again. I got a great wife. But what Harlan says is absolutely true. I was just lucky, I guess, to be in a position to be able to help keep the Corvette alive when it was probably doomed, not because GM hated Corvette, but because at a time back in the early 90s when we were short of funds and the old Corvette at that point was getting pretty old and tired and wasn't making much money, it was hard to convince somebody that we had to do a new Corvette, because it is the halo car that everybody in the world recognizes as the real flagship of GM. And I had lucky to have a team with me. Brought my friend Tadge on board. We had one or two arguments along the way, but I'll tell you what, he's been a fabulous leader. And Harlan, you couldn't ask for somebody that really lives the car any better. People have said, Joe, what do you want to do someday? I said, well, I got a lot of things ahead of me, but someday I'm going to be buried in a Corvette. My 2 boys said, to hell if you are. We're not going to give any of your Corvettes up. We'll put you in a little jar on the top of the shelf. We're keeping the Corvette above ground. So, hey, I just want to say again, it's been my life. I've been all around the world. I've been walking down the street in Melbourne, Australia with my Corvette jacket on. I have 2 guys come running out of this bar and grab me. And, my gosh, it's Joe Spielman. And you look up and it's a Corvette bar and grill. And remember, we don't even sell Corvettes in Australia except used ones, because if it's a new car less than 25 years old, you got to convert it to right-hand drive. That's the kind of enthusiasm it has. And I got to tell you, I'm so proud of this guy here and his entire team, the folks up at the design studios. and a wonderful job they've done with these cars. Now, my birthday's coming. If you want to buy me that Carbon, that'd be pretty good for repay for some of the things, right?
Employee discounts.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So anyhow, thanks a lot, Tadge, Harlan, appreciate it.
Yeah, I just wanted to tell everybody when Joe retired, he said to me, and sometimes he can be a little intimidating if you haven't realized that. So he told me, he said, "Corvette is my car. Don't screw it up, or I'm coming after you." So I don't want Joe coming after us, so we'll be good.
Yeah, Joe says that to everybody. In fact, we have all people's meetings for the entire crew that's building or working on designing the next generation Corvette. So we got a new team. A lot of the old people still there, but General Motors has gone through some pretty extreme downsizing. So we got a lot of new people working on Corvette that never worked on it before. So we have to kind of impress upon them what Corvette really means to the company and what it means to design parts and systems for the Corvette. So one of the things we're doing is we get together the entire team, doesn't matter what they work on, in an all people's meeting, and we invite guest speakers. And the first one we had was Joe. And so he came and saw the gathered engineers and designers and everybody who works on the car. And the message was pretty much the same. This is my car, don't screw it up or I'll come back and haunt you. So that kind of passion really helps kind of solidify the team. They understand, they get to hear about the history, appreciate that they're part of a long-running tradition, not just another car at General Motors. So Joe is here today. We're happy to have him. We have another special guest here today. You guys, probably many of you have seen him before because he's shared this mic with Harlan and I fairly recently, and that's Tom Wallace. He's in the back. Come on up, Tom. Tom retired just a couple of years ago as our vehicle line executive and the global chief engineer for the Corvette. He was also responsible for other cars, but he was really there to do the Corvette. So he succeeded Dave Hill when Dave Hill retired. And Tom came in and did great things for the time he was with us. So, Tom?
Thanks, Tadge. Thank you. Hi, everybody. How y'all doing? All right, good. Well, first of all, thanks, Tadge and Harlan, for even allowing me to come up here and grab the microphone. They're probably a little worried about that when they give me the mic, but I promise only 1 or 2 minutes. Now, what you do need to think about is Joe's comments and Tadge and Harlan and I and Joe. I had a few run-ins with Joe too, but I always lost. I used to be 6'5", and Joe would always win, Joe, right? Actually, Joe and I had a lot of fun, and between Joe and Tadge and Harlan and I and all the rest of the team, the fun was, even when we had the debates, it was never about are we going to do a great car, it was how we were going to do a great car. And that's what I like to see. It's still going on. It's totally in good hands with Tadge and his team and Harlan and their team, and the guys down at Bowling Green just couldn't be better. You guys just keep watching, guys and girls, because the new cars are going to keep coming. They're beautiful. Another one right here. Joe, I haven't had 37, that's for sure, but my wife's sitting next to you. Maybe you could, Joe, would you please talk to my wife? She's sitting next to you. Actually, she owns a Corvette, so she's already there. But anyway, it's great to be back to see you folks. I recognize a lot of friends in the audience. Of course, you know me, the racing's in the blood. Just a little bit about the racing, you'll hear more about it later, but I mean, this is the best road racing in the country right now. And it is really, really great to have our Corvette team out there amongst all the other cars that we actually have to sell against too. So it's a dogfight in GT2. It's going to be a great race. The guys are really, really excited to be able to represent you folks, and that's why we do this, to make this car better and to show the world that these guys here are still making the best sports cars in the world as far as I'm concerned. So just say thank you. We'll be around and get to talk to you a little bit, and like I said, it's still in good hands with these folks, so you can just keep seeing great things come out. Thank you, Tadge. Thank you, Harlan.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, now you got to listen to Harlan and I. We're going to talk a little product information, although we're not going to talk about 2012 stuff. If you want to hear about 2012 stuff, you got to come to the birthday bash. There might be a few trickles of different information coming out, but we're still building and selling 2011 cars, so Harlan's going to talk to you a little bit about that and the cars that we have here. One of the things we like to do is talk about media write-ups on the car. We usually have, Car and Driver says this, Road and Track says that. But I have a little bit of a different one today. It's Consumer Reports. How many of you guys subscribe to Consumer Reports? Not a lot. I wouldn't expect a lot. I mean, if you listen to what they say about cars, you're going to get misdirected some of the time. But these guys have never been our fans. They were never General Motors fans, and they certainly weren't Corvette fans for many, many years. But if you look at the latest issue that just came out, Corvette is now a recommended buy, and if you look under the individual ratings, they just can't deny us anymore in terms of the quality improvements that have been made on the car. They send out surveys, and you guys, it's really only for Consumer Reports subscribers, so if you guys don't subscribe, you can't fill out the survey. But based on the surveys they do get, we are now in the highest class, not just acceptable, but in the highest class, the highest possible score for predicted reliability. And when you combine that of the performance of the car and then the surveys they do on owner satisfaction, which we know everybody loves the car, so owner satisfaction, we always get top scores. But now they have to rate the Corvette and the Corvette Z06 as a recommended buy. So we've been working on this for a long time. We've given them cars. Sometimes, we get the comments back that the car is a little bit irresponsible, has too much power, has too much performance. They're used to something a little tamer than that. But after all this time, they're now giving us our due. So a big recognition for us and kind of an unexpected accomplishment, to tell you the truth. So, Harlan?
Yeah, thanks. I just want to talk about some of the cars we have on display here. Of course, the Z06 Carbon. Last year we had a show car that we showed now, and it is in production. It is available, and it will be available to order probably to about the middle of April. So if you're interested, now's the chance. This car we have here is a special car. This is a Inferno Orange. This is actually the second Z06 Carbon edition that was built. The first one, if you might remember this from before, was auctioned. The first Carbon edition was auctioned and purchased by Rick Hendrick at Barrett Jackson in Palm Beach for, I think it was about $270,000. So this is the next one that was built after his, Inferno Orange. And this car is interesting because this is the first one built the standard level Carbon. So this is the lightest one you can get. We call it the 1LZ, is the base level package. So it doesn't have like the leather wrapped instrument panel and doors, but it does have the suede seats, steering wheel, shifter, things like that. Orange stitching that make it special. There's the carbon fiber hood that you see here. Of course, the ceramic brakes, the black ZR1 style wheels, and the carbon fiber ground effects and the ZR1 style spoiler. So this is really, our special tribute to racing at Le Mans 50 years and the technology transfer that Corvette has had with racing. Now this other car here, I'm getting a lot of questions on this one. This was a car, it's basically a 2011 Grand Sport Coupe that it started out with. It's mostly stock, but what we wanted to do on this car, this is a car we created for the SEMA show in Las Vegas. Anybody heard of the SEMA show? Most people? It's usually to show specialty equipment and things that you can do to personalize your car. And so we have a lot of Jake, themes. Jake is of course our mascot for Corvette racing. We hadn't really done a lot of accessories featuring Jake in a while. Actually, we did the GT1 edition as a special edition, but nothing really that you could buy as accessories. So this is showing a lot of things that will be out this summer, like the stripe package inside the car. There's special console lid and floor mats. This car doesn't have. What we're also going to have is wheel center caps available in all the different colors and things like that. So we really want to take a Grand Sport and show what you could do with the accessories. Another car we have on display. Anybody been out to the Chevrolet display? Most people. If you're out there, we have a car called the Z06X, and it's a concept, and the concept is for a track prepared Corvette that you could order from the factory. Again, it's just a concept right now, but the idea is it would not be a street legal car, it'd be a car for people who want to do track days, go to the different track events around the country. We're studying that as an idea, and so far the response has been really good. It's an unusual color. It's a pearl low gloss white color, which is very interesting, and so make sure you check that out if you haven't seen that yet. Also on display we have the Inferno Orange convertible, Grand Sport convertible out there. That was actually the second 2011 car that was built, and it has the new Goodyear Gen 2 tires on it. It has magnetic selective ride control, which is new this year for the Grand Sport. Also we have the supersonic blue coupe with the new machine face wheels. That car is actually the third 2011 car that was built, Fin 3. So we got a lot of special cars here, and actually this Fin 3 coupe is going to be a museum, National Corvette Museum raffle car this summer. So that's exciting. It's going to be a special car for somebody to win that one. So also we had a few things come out mid-year for Corvette for 2011. We have custom contrasting stitching, and this is available with the leather-wrapped interiors. You can get blue, red, or yellow stitching is a new feature. We also have a blue convertible top. Some of the pictures have been out. It looks great with the supersonic blue. I saw an order Arctic white with the blue top and a cashmere interior. It's kind of that color palette you might see on an Aston Martin or Bentley type of car, but it looks great on a Grand Sport convertible also. So that's something new. We're just continuing to come out with new features and things like that. Now, another thing I did want to talk briefly about, if you notice our new race car, we have some new logos on here, on the hood and on the fender. And what those are commemorating, this is the start of a celebration of 100 years of Chevrolet. Chevrolet was founded in November of 1911, so we're almost 100 years old. And one of the things we really wanted to show people is the racing connection and heritage we have. Louis Chevrolet, who our car is named after, was a famous race car driver and a famous race car designer 100 years ago. And so racing and performance has always been part of Chevrolet, and we're celebrating that on the race car. And actually, Louis Chevrolet's motto, it goes attributed to him, although a lot of people say this, was never give up on the track, and that really fits our Corvette racing team as well, because we know from Petit Le Mans last year that they never give up, and you might win on the last lap. So hopefully this year it won't come to the last lap. Maybe we could win a little earlier this year, hopefully. But anyway, let me turn it back over to Tadge.
We're going to do Q&A, as we always do, but we know the first questions are going to be about the next-gen car, the C7. So I'm going to kind of try to, yeah, I'm going to ask you guys some questions. But I asked about Consumer Reports, how many people read Car and Driver? Quite a few. So you guys all have this issue, which has a picture of a C7 on it. And then you look inside, and there's another picture of a C7 on it. And I just want to make sure you guys all understand. This is an oil painting by a guy named Radovan Veresek. He's basically commissioned by Car and Driver to come up with something that looks like a real car. It's not a Photoshop, but you can tell it's a piecemeal, kind of kludged together current car and the Stingray show car that we have. He took some cues from those and pasted those together. I can absolutely guarantee you this is not the car. The car's never been out there, but you're going to see, and I say this at every event I go to, you're going to see tons of authoritative sounding articles on what the C7 is going to be, when it's going to come out, and even photograph. You know, this looks like photographic quality. You're going to see these, and suffice it to say, we're not bringing journalists through the styling studio to show them what it looks like, but we are working on it. It's still a few years out, but it's going to be very good when we get there. But before you guys start asking me questions, I was going to ask you some questions, just with a show of hands, since we have so many Corvette fans here. We'll do a little clinic, and you guys can get your input on what you think it should be. So one of the big debates you see in the blogs is whether the car should be a front engine car or a mid-engine car. So show of hands, who wants to keep it front engine? Who'd rather see us go to mid-engine? Okay, thank you. See, I'm not going to tell you what we're going to do. I'm just going to look at the hands. I'm not going to tell you if you're right or wrong or which way we're doing. This is just customer input. So don't take it that because it's a majority here that's necessarily what we're doing. But it is customer input, but there's a lot more customers than just you guys. And also we're trying to honestly make the car appeal to even a broader audience. Even though we dominate the sports car market in North America today, we want to keep making the car have greater and greater bandwidth, more appealing to more folks. And so it's quite a challenge to do that. But we have to ask these fundamental questions to do that. So another question you see debated is whether we're going to stick with a V8 or a turbocharged V6. So same question. Who wants to stick with a V8? And Turbo 6 fans? One. Anybody else? Yes? No? Okay. Turbo V8. How many people want a Turbo V8? Okay. How many people are okay with 12 miles per gallon? That's pretty popular, actually. Okay. How many think it's very important to improve the fuel economy of the current Corvette substantially in the next generation car? You? Not too many? Maybe a third. Okay. You know the government has a different opinion than you do. Just want to make sure you know that. Yeah, well, that's not up to me. Okay, another question is, all Corvettes, except for the Z06 and ZR1, have the target top, the removable roof panel. Do you think that we should make all Corvettes like that, or should we keep a lightweight fixed roof variant? So how many people think every Corvette should get the removable roof panel?
As opposed to a fixed roof?
As opposed to a fixed roof. Here, okay. Everybody else thinks we should keep a fixed roof variant?
Can you make it as stiff without the top?
It's a lot harder. I mean,
Isn't that the argument, though?
that is the argument. If you put a roof in, you can make the overall car lighter because you have that load path that help in the structure. Okay. Next question. Okay, this is about styling. Would you rather see evolutionary styling or something very revolutionary, stepping away from Corvette's traditional bill of design? So who wants evolutionary? And who would like a revolutionary car? Pretty conservative crowd here. Want it pretty evolutionary. Here's a question. Corvette has way more luggage room than any other sports car. I mean, by like a factor of 2 to 1. What if we said we could make the car a little more compact, because that's one of the claims, is even though the Corvette's the same length as a Porsche 911, one of the claims is it's too big. So what if we sacrificed luggage room to make the car more compact? Okay, how many people want the smaller car with less luggage room? 1, 2. 2. I'm talking about shortening the whole car, taking that space that we use for luggage room now and just compressing everything. Now I noticed you guys aren't getting any smaller, so we can't make the occupant space any smaller. I didn't say you were getting bigger, I just said you weren't getting smaller. So we want to keep the comfort and the space that you enjoy in the... Actually, Buzz did get smaller. On average, though. Well, one of the common criticisms of the current Corvette is it's kind of big and bulky. That you read that in the media. I know you guys don't think so, but... We're not saying anything about what's true or not true. I'm just gathering customer input here. So it sounds like you'd like to keep the luggage room. We kind of spoiled you guys with more luggage room than any other sports car. You'd like to keep that. You guys can debate this amongst yourselves. I'm just providing fodder for conversation after we finish our presentation here. you guys can talk amongst yourselves and hash it out and give us a conclusion. Okay, one last question. How many folks would like to see a hybrid version of the car? Yeah. Harlan and I got our ears bent yesterday by two guys who kept us until way past dark, saying that we had to have a Volt version of the Corvette. They want an electric motor, they wanted to fill up the trunk with batteries, and then... Okay, all right. I just want you guys to have your say, make sure. All right, so that's all the questions I had. I think we can go ahead and do the next car now that we have that input. So we'll open up the floor to you guys. What do you guys have on your mind? What would you like to talk about? Back here. 100%. You can buy it today. Oh, on the Z06 CR1? We're obviously would like to do that. Right now we don't have a transmission that can take the torque and speed of those engines, but we are working on that for future. So yes, there's a chance that we'll get that. Another question? Over here?
Would you do a brief walk around and define the different composite materials that are used in the body?
Sure, there's not too terribly many. I don't know if I can get over here, but basically the front and rear fascias, the end caps of the car, are what we call rim. It's urethane material. You shoot it into a mold and there's chemical reactions inside that mold that create the finished shape, and it's very soft and compliant, so you can actually create shapes that you can't create in other kinds of hard materials. Also good that it's soft for bumper hit. We have bumper hit requirements, so you can hit at 2.5 miles an hour with no damage to the car. So you just use that on the parts that are going to be struck on the end. Then, depending on which Corvette, you have a mixture of SMC, fiberglass, so glass reinforced composites, and carbon fiber. On this car in particular, basically the whole front clip, fenders, hood, and then the wheel houses, the structural pieces underneath, that's all carbon fiber. You see it focused on the front end of the car because we're trying to take weight off the front, keep the weight on the rear, the driving wheels, stay close to 50-50, but if anything, shift it a little bit to the rear. After that, it's all fiberglass. And then if you get the transparent panel, that's a polycarbonate panel. That's the plastic that you can see through. Yeah, and then like on a Z06 or a ZR1, you can actually see the carbon panel right through it. These are the lower ground effects. Those are carbon fiber also, but they're painted black. On a ZR1, it's clear coated so you can see the carbon through it.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question? Okay, other questions over here?
This has been a fire 'em up. How about a diesel?
How about a diesel? Who wants a diesel? One?
If you've driven a modern European diesel.
Turbo diesel.
Turbo diesel.
Up the ante. Same guy. All right.
We need saw.
All right, you'll have to build your own if you want that.
But there is one in Canada.
There is a diesel Corvette in Canada?
C3 with an old truck diesel.
Okay.
50 mile a gallon.
More questions? Right here.
Yeah, on the blogs, I've been reading a lot about poor tire life performance on the C6. Now, I haven't experienced it yet. We've only got 3,000 miles, but they're saying that the tires are wearing out 10 to 11,000. Is that because of compromise between handling and tire life, or are you coming out with better tires?
There's a couple things going on. I don't know which particular, Corvette has a bunch of different tires on it. But tires have gotten more aggressive over the years. Everybody's competing on performance. And so if you look all the way back to C4 days, you used to get a lot more miles out of a set of tires than you do today. So some of that is more and more aggressive compounding, because the only way to win in the car and driver competitions on the track is to use softer, more aggressive compounds. So there has been a general trend, not just on Corvette, but all cars where performance is part of the heart of what they do. So there's a little bit of that, but then there's also some alignment challenges, I'll say, on Z51 in particular, where you can wear out the inside of the tire. We spent a bunch of money, like $1 million last year, to try to improve the alignment capability in Bowling Green, to try to make the tire alignment more precise to avoid some of those problems. Over here.
On the transport automatic, 2010, why isn't it possible to get a transport automatic with dry zone, with type of the new generation of the tires, battery in the back, differential?
The main reason is that it's an automatic.
So
The automatic transmission was not engineered for the same kind of lateral load capability that the manual is.
Okay, so the limiting factor is the
So when the limiting factor is the transmission, there's no sense adding all the content to save the, I mean, the dry sump is to save the engine, improve the loop system in the engine. That's not the weak link, so you don't put it in.
Okay. Just for the purpose of, let's say, better cooling the oil, okay, dry sump could also be beneficial, because there's a lot of hot oil in the dry sump. And for instance, just to explain, I'm German. I'm here for a couple of years now, looking to come over to Germany.
Yep.
And I'm not really sure if the oil temperatures will be, let's say, for high speed, continuous driving.
It should be okay. I mean, we sell the Corvette contented similarly in Europe. Like I said, the condition of the oil, based on our testing, the weak link is always the transmission. You'll get a message on the driver information center that the trans temp hot before you run into any issues with the engine oil. Okay.
I've done a lot
What
of
here?
autobahn running, no problem with the automatic, it's fine.
Yeah, the automatic's still pretty robust. Go ahead.
Have you tested the superchargers on the Z06? And you're ever going to see a supercharged
No. And that's the answer to both of those questions. What are you asking for? What was the first question? You said, are we tested a supercharger on the Z06? Oh, have we actually physically bolted the supercharger onto a 7-liter engine? We haven't, but others have. We've done some test work that shows that the block is not strong enough at 7 liters to handle our internal durability requirements with a blower on it. Because remember, we do 24 hours at the limit. We do a lot of abusive testing that aftermarket folks who bolt this stuff together don't do. Right here.
What process is used to make the body panels on the early Corvettes and on the new Corvettes?
We should probably talk after, because if I start getting into this level of detail on the exact manufacturing process, some of the stuff.
Or compression mold?
Compression molded for the most part.
These are.
Yes.
The old ones are spray layout?
Way long time ago, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Back here in the white.
You mentioned the magazine. A lot of the Corral articles, they always criticize the Corvettes on the seats. Any chance you put in like a performance seat?
We are looking at offering an accessory seat that would be a performance-oriented seat. And the seats on any car, but especially a Corvette, are integral to the safety systems of the car. And so engineering a seat, the magazines always say it would be so easy for them to just bolt in a Recaro or do this or do that. It's not easy at all. It's extremely expensive. And the Corvette, even though the car is fairly wide, has the narrowest space for seats of any car. And the reason for that is we have a very wide center tunnel, because for structural stiffness at great mass efficiency, I mean, that's the balance we've struck. We have a big backbone, so the car is extremely stiff and extremely light. It's a very hard combination to come by, but the cost for that is that you end up with a big tunnel and so narrow space of seats. So a lot of kind of bolt-in seats just don't fit in a Corvette. There are some racing shells that you can put in, but they don't have the airbags, they don't have a independent recline mechanism. They wouldn't meet any of the safety requirements that we have to meet. So coming up with a new seat that meets all the original equipment manufacturing is an extremely complex problem. And I can tell you we are working on the next generation car. You know, we understand those criticisms, and we're trying to break that impossible formula for the next gen. In the interim, we're looking at what can we offer as a kind of an accessory that might be like an off-road kind of application, so you don't have the full functionality, but if you really want a performance seat, you can get it. Rudy?
But actually, you opened the door to something. I would like you to elaborate the changes, conversation we had 2 years ago about the seat standards the government's imposing and what challenges it is facing, so people understand. This notion of, oh, we just go and bolt the seat in. You just opened the door. Why don't you explain?
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of different requirements on seats, and they're evolving even to this day. If you get in a new Corvette and you feel the headrest, this is one example. I mean, this is happening constantly. If you reach back and feel the headrest, if you look at the first 6 or so years of the C6, you'll feel it's a very soft pillow. It feels really nice. It's when my wife drives the Corvette, I can sleep in the passenger side. It's very comfortable. But the government came up with a new regulation for when you're struck in the rear, they don't want your head, your neck angle to rotate more than 7 degrees. Now, most of you can probably move your neck 7 degrees without difficulty. It doesn't cause you any permanent damage or anything, but that's the requirement, is that in a rear impact, your neck can only move 7 degrees. So what that forced, not just for Corvette, but for many cars, and if you look at a lot of cars, it's changed the way seats are designed quite a lot. It's forced the headrest portion forward, and it's caused it to become much, much harder. So you'll see some cars out there that are absolutely like a brick. It looks like a cinder block in the headrest. So that's your government at work, your tax dollars at work.
We have our helmets.
I know, yeah, they don't worry about the guys with helmets. But that's just one example of many, many regulations that are constantly bombarding us. Right here?
If we look at the Corvettes out here, about half of them have Corsa exhaust systems on them. I know you offer the NPP option, the baffles that open, but is that misplaced, of course? So why don't you just offer Corsa as a factory option? Maybe it wouldn't have to.
It would be illegal. We were just talking about laws. We have to meet pass-by laws that vary state by state. This is a test where you enter a trap with a microphone in the road, right at the side of the road. I mean, right at the edge of the road. And you enter at a certain speed, and you have to go wide open throttle through that trap, and you have to be less than so many decibels. It's a requirement in most of the states. It's a state law, it's not a federal law, but it's a state law. There's also European and Asian variations of the same kind of law. So the way we get around that is we have basically an urban mode and an extra urban mode. So when the valves and the NPP stay closed, we're whisper quiet through the mics, but as soon as we get out of that trap, the valve flaps open and then you're off making lots of noise then. But so it's basically, and the laws really came about for disturbances in the city. So when you drive the car like you would in a city, the valves don't open. It's only when you really are above 3,000 RPM and you really got your foot in it that the valve will open. So, you didn't hear me say it, but what he said. We cannot recommend that. Okay, any other questions? Way in the back.
Getting back to the Z51 suspension and the alignment problems with for instance, I've done run through some Goodyear cars. Now I've mentioned P2 ones. I haven't had one very long, but Goodyear went away, broke away. I don't have very good
Okay, I'm not sure I got all that. Are you asking if the Michelins will be better or worse than the Goodyears? Yeah, we don't know what the Michelin aftermarket.
The alignment problem with the Z51.
Uh-huh.
Okay, is there a cutoff or now when you get an alignment that will...
Yeah, if you just get a regular alignment at your dealership, you'll have the problem taken care of. Its question is, as it's shipped out of the factory, how tight a tolerance can you hold on the alignment? That's what the equipment's for. Okay? Here? Did I? That was on my list. Maybe I forgot to ask. Okay. We got a write-in vote for all-wheel drive on the next-gen car. Okay. How about right here?
With the struggles economic as far as financial and GM bankruptcy, I was concerned about the continued existence of the market. What were two of the biggest struggles that you had to cope with, and what were two of the most important factors that leads to its continued existence today?
Are you a college professor? You asked for two, right? Not just one? You didn't ask for the biggest one. You want two. The biggest one and the second biggest one. Well, obviously, as General Motors went through bankruptcy, there were stresses throughout the organization, and we were part of that. The one good thing, I'll tell you a couple of good things. Corvette makes money. You know, Joe talked about the good old days when, you know, we had to use words like halo vehicle and technological leadership and stuff like that. Those days are kind of behind us. The Corvette is a bread and butter car. It contributes to the bottom line of General Motors. So everybody was worried that we would be summarily dismissed. You know, what does a government-owned car company have any business doing fun cars? I mean, that obviously is sort of a non-starter. But the truth is two things. Some of the people they hired to assess the business prospects of GM were Corvette fans. So that helped us out. I was on a conference call with the Treasury Department, and I expected to get all these questions. And what did I get? What's the C7 going to be? You know, I got the same question I get from you guys. And then they also looked at the books. You know, you started hearing some senior level executives as soon as we came out of bankruptcy say we're going to start working on a new Corvette, and so we started almost immediately. And you heard the rhetoric out of Washington die down a little bit on, you know, the reason GM went into bankruptcy is they didn't have enough good small cars. That kind of quieted down, and now we're working on cars that make money. Unfortunately, Corvette is one of those. So as long as you guys keep buying them and we keep Bowling Green running, we'll be around. Any more? Okay. Yeah, I'm not positive. I would think so, but I'm not positive. I'd have to check on that.
The big difference is the paddle and drive.
Yeah.
You can use the paddles in drive mode.
Yeah, I can probably check this weekend and let you know. If you can flash that in and get that feature functionality, you may be able to do that. Question is, can you upgrade your earlier paddle shifting automatic to the latest 2011 calibrations? So there's it operates a little faster, and you can tap and drive. There's a few little features you can get. All right, we're getting past the end of our time here. But
C7, you see a continuation. Variation in models.
I think the question was, when we do get to a next generation Corvette, are some of these models going to disappear, or are we going to keep the variety of cars that we sell today? Obviously, we've made a lot of hay with the coupe convertible, then bringing out the Z06 and the ZR1 to the point where Z06 and ZR1 are brands unto themselves. They have a brand equity around the world, so we can't really walk away from that. As we think about the next generation car, we will obviously be incorporating the kind of thinking, and also, you know, we've grown to the point where we're spanning a price point from $50,000 to $120,000. We really don't want to walk away from that, because that's a pretty nice range to be working in. I mean, you can take a couple things from that. One is, now we're starting our product thinking, knowing we're going to span that range, as opposed to kind of add-on models. And then the other part of that is maybe we can make, just like you think about the Z06 on the C5, the next time we brought the Z06 out, it was more unique because we got to do a lot more advanced thinking about it. So I think you'll see some benefits to that kind of approach.
Racing E85 or E10 in the racing car?
It's E10 for this race.
Why is that?
The rules changed, and the only way I know this is I've read publicly available stuff like you guys could get. The rules changed for this particular race, where you got a restrictor change if you went to E10. Our guys did the calculations and found 0.15 of a second or something advantage going to E10, so that's what they're running. Okay, one last question. This is it. sounds like the question is, why don't you satisfy the people in this room, like in North America, with a traditional V8, but then take the same basic car and put a small displacement, high revving engine in it for other markets? There's a lot of technical challenges, first of all, with putting a diesel in a Corvette. If you've looked at a diesel architecture, it's extremely challenging in a car that's this low, especially for one of the displacement that you would need to have reasonable levels of performance. So Corvette is a global car, and we sell it in markets around the world, and we do get input from those folks as we go to figure out what the next gen car is. In a lot of cases, Corvette's a little exotic in this country, but pretty attainable. In many other markets, it's an outright exotic. And questions like, fuel economy and whether it's a 5-liter or 6-liter, it's already crazy. It's already just ridiculous, over the top. So scaling it back a little bit, not going to make much difference. So you'd have to scale it back a lot. And then the local market people say, well, that's not a real Corvette. The North American guys, they get the real one. You send us this diluted one over here. We don't want that. So, okay. Thanks. All right. Well, Harlan and I will be here all weekend. So if you have any other questions, feel free to come talk to us. Thanks for listening.